So, when you hear the name Frankenstein, what's the first thing that pops into your head? I bet it's a gloomy castle, a big flash of lightning, and, a huge lumbering monster with bolts in his neck. That image is burned into our brains, right? But what if I told you that's not how this story actually kicks off? Not even close. Today, we're going to tear down and rebuild Mary Shelley's masterpiece to get to the story you only think you know.
Yeah, forget the spooky lab for a second. The novel actually opens with a bunch of letters. They're from a guy named Captain Robert Walton, who's an Arctic explorer. He's on this incredibly dangerous mission, all for the sake of glory, and he's writing back home to his sister from these desolate, frozen seas. He's chasing something huge, and it's right here, literally, in the middle of nowhere, that he stumbles upon something and someone he never ever could have expected.
Okay, so one of the things that makes this book just so brilliant is how it's built. It's not just a straight line from beginning to end. Nope. Shelley structured it kind of like a Russian doll, where you open one story and it reveals another story inside, and then believe it or not, there's another one inside of that.
So that outermost layer, our first doll, is Captain Walton. This guy is driven by this intense need to, as he puts it, accomplish some great purpose. He wants to be the first human to set foot on the North Pole. And his ambition, well, it's a perfect mirror for the story he's about to hear. Because just like the man he's about to pull from the ice, he's willing to risk it all for a little bit of knowledge and glory.
Here's a quick roadmap so you can see how this all fits together. We start with Walton and his crew stuck in the ice. Then they rescue a man, that's Victor Frankenstein, who proceeds to tell Walton his entire tragic life story. And then, smack in the middle of Victor's story, he stops and tells the story that the creature told him. It's a really clever way to make sure every single character, even the one we call the monster, gets to have their own voice.
So while they're trapped in the ice, Walton's crew sees this bizarre sight, a sled being pulled by dogs carrying a gigantic figure. The very next day, they find another sled, this one carrying a half-frozen, starving man. And this is our Victor Frankenstein. When Victor sees that same burning ambition in Captain Walton's eyes, he decides to lay it all out, to tell his story as a warning, a cautionary tale about what happens when you try to play God.
And with that heavy warning, we dive down into the second layer of the story, Victor's own incredible confession. And this is where the bits and pieces of the story that most of us know start to come into focus.
Victor tells Walton all about his happy childhood, but he admits he always had this insatiable thirst for knowledge. Then he gets to university, and that curiosity just sours into this dark, all-consuming obsession. He locks himself away, he digs up graves, he works like a madman, until, one stormy night, he does it. He succeeds. But the second his creation opens its watery yellow eye,